So, this is my knitting podcast. This is podcast number 3. Let's see. Today is April 4th, 2024. It is around 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m., and I have a window on this side of me, and can't really think of anything else. It's a little cloudy today. I think it's around 50 degrees, and it feels really nice actually outside. Um, So let's get into it. So I'm currently wearing my Hello for My Colors crop by Jessie May Designs. I knit this, I believe I want to say last year. Must have been early last year. But yeah, I love it. It's the perfect garment piece to wear in this type of weather. So that is all the knitwear I'm wearing. So let's get into finished objects. I did finish objects. So I think I showed this my last podcast, but this is the Dustland sweater by Stephen West. I knit this for my husband last year, and I needed to extend the sleeves, or no, shorten the sleeves and extend the body, and I did finish that. I think I showed it last week. All completed. It is blocked. My husband has worn it. It fits him beautifully now. I did fix the sleeves, and I finally added the little tag that I got. I got this at Rhinebeck last year. I got it, I think at Katrinkles, their store, and it just says 2023 Rhinebeck sweater, because this was my husband's Rhinebeck sweater last year. I don't plan on knitting him a Rhinebeck sweater every year, but I do plan on knitting him a sweater every year, and this one just happened to be finished by Rhinebeck. So yes, I did make the adjustments for this. It fits him wonderfully. I highly recommend this pattern if you are interested in this pattern. It is not difficult at all. Stephen West is very, I think he's a great beginner designer. Or he's not a beginning designer. He's great for if you are starting off knitting and you want to get beautifully crafted pieces with some advanced work. So I guess for the adventurous beginner. But yes, this is the Dustland. I knit this in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes tweed. I still can't remember the name. It's the red color, and yeah, it's an all-over textured cardigan sweater. No cabling at all, just straight texture. And yeah, if you can knit and you can purl, you can definitely knit this. It is worsted weight, so it does go by pretty quickly. So for a gift knit for somebody else, it is kind of nice to get something off of the needles pretty quick. But yeah, I finished that, and he's been wearing it. It fits him beautifully now. I will say that since fixing it, I feel like he wears it more often than before, which makes sense. If something fits you better, you are more likely to be inclined to wear it. So yes, that's the Dustland. And then I fixed my Woolen Honey. So this is the Woolen Honey pullover by Andrea Mowry. This is a fingering weight sweater. It's all, well, it's knit in the round, but it's knit in garter, and then it has this very interesting style detail on it. So I knit this last year as well, and I needed to fix the sleeves. I needed to extend them. That seems to be my trend. So I've extended both sleeves, and they both match. So for the Dustland, I ripped out the sleeve from the cuff, and so I just had ramen noodles yarn. For this one, because I still had my leftover little ball of yarn from when I first knit it, I did some sweater surgery. So I cut into the sleeve, put my cuff on a scrap needle, and then I knit from the body down approximately 2 inches, I believe is what I measured it as. And then I just grafted the cuff to the sleeve together. And you can't really tell. Well, you can see like a little bit of difference of gauge. I did washed it, but I didn't like stretch it out to block it. I just washed it and then just let it dry naturally. So I suppose I could block it better to make it less obvious, but honestly, you can't really tell. You can hardly tell on this sleeve at all, at least in person, and you definitely can't tell while wearing it. So yeah, I fixed my Woolen Honey by Andrea Mowry. This is a great fingering weight sweater. I knit this out of Knit Picks palette in Autumn Heather, and it's a really great spring weather knit because it is I live in Delaware, so spring is still a little bit cool. It's more rainy than anything else, so a wool sweater is great against rain and wetness, and the fingering weight just makes it light and airy. So I finished the Woolen Honey. So those are 2 knits that I wanted to fix that are all done and ready to go back into my wardrobe. Me and my husband, we don't keep like a winter and summer wardrobe. We just keep our clothes out year round. So we don't really store our winter knits separately. So yeah, those are my 2 finished objects. They're not really finished objects because it wasn't as if I started and then finished these in a specific timeline. But yeah, I'm just realizing that these are both very red, but I did knit these last year, and I did knit them closer to the end of summer, early autumn, so I guess it makes sense that I would gravitate toward this color at that time period. So next are some work in progresses. Let me go grab them really quick. They're a little further away. So my first one that I want to show is my No Sweatshirt by Parkin Williams. Is it Parkin Williams? Yes, I believe so. This is knit in Noral Kakagori and the color number 29. And I have finished both sleeves. I think I showed both sleeves last week or 2 weeks ago. And I am now finished with the body. So I need to add on my ribbing needles. Well, these are US 6s, so I'm going to go down to a US 4 and then do the ribbing for about 2 inches and then bind off. I'm not sure yet if I want to do the hood pickup. So I knit the hood. The hood is completely done. There is a hood pickup so that you can loop in an I-cord so that you can like as a drawstring. But I kind of like the raw edge of this hood right now. So I don't know how I would feel about adding that drawstring. I could always add it in later, so I'm thinking that might be the case. So once I finish the ribbing, I'm hoping that this will be a finished object as well. So yes, this is a relatively quick knit. It is knit in stockinette and then worn on the reverse side, which is great on my hands. So it is a relatively quick knit. This is DK weight, and I'm using US 6s. So, but I mean, like as long as you hit gauge, it really doesn't matter. And so yeah. This I have worn it to test it out, and the raglan increases fit beautifully. Like there's no weird flaring or weird bunching of fabric. So I would highly recommend this pattern if you are interested in knitting like a raglan. And I did follow the sleeve decreases, but I didn't do as many. I do have kind of short arms, so, but yeah, the sleeve decreases are also really great fitting. And obviously the second sleeve is the exact same as the other sleeve. So yeah, this is the No Sweatshirt. I'm hoping that I can get it done before my next podcast, which I plan to film and upload in 2 weeks. So that is the No Sweatshirt. The next one I'll show is my rose cardigan. I have finished the first half of the rose cardigan. This pattern is by Andrea Mowry. So I'll just be, and I've shown that first half in my other 2 podcasts. So I'm just going to show you the progress that I've made on the second half, which I am still knitting, not as diligently as I should be, but knitting nonetheless. So as I've explained before, I'm using a fade. So, and I'm trying to stay integral to the fade. So I'm not really following the pattern as directed. So I'm knitting the cuff first and then knitting from the cuff into the body. So I am knitting both quadrants at the same time on the same needle. I'm coming from the rib, which has actually worked out really well. I was a little worried about this method because there weren't a lot of project pages that used this, but it's actually worked out really great. Of course I haven't finished it yet, but I'm thinking that if I do knit this pattern again, I would probably do the exact same, like knitting from the cuff through to the sleeve into the body. But instead of knitting it by quadrants, I'm debating on whether I could knit it in the round, because I'm not the biggest fan of seaming. And when you knit flat, you eventually will have to seam. Like your body, you eventually need to make cylinders out of fabric to fit your body. So eventually you would have to seam if you're gonna knit flat. So I'm wondering if I knit this again, if I could knit it in the round and avoid the seaming altogether. But I might change my mind after the entire cardigan is done, and then, because I'm not the designer, I don't know the intention of it, so yeah. But anyway, I am still on the second half. I am still doing my fade as the fade intended. So yeah, I will say that the second half of this fade is fading more gradually than the first half. Or it might just be because I'm getting accustomed to these colors that I'm just not noticing anything jarring. That is also the case for me. And then my other whip that you guys will be familiar with. I say you guys as if there's a lot of people following me. Really, it's you guys as in like future Esther watching this, being like, oh yeah, I did knit that. That is the mistake I did. That's really the you guys that I'm referring to. Anyway, this is my sock. I am knitting the DRK Everyday socks, but I'm not doing the 2x2 ribbing. I'm doing a 3x1. And then this yarn is Lavender Loons, their sock yarn in the color 200. So yeah, I still think this looks like strawberry lemonade, but now I'm thinking maybe more like raspberry lemonade. But yeah, I'm now on my Hiya Sharps. I want to call these flyers, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I do love these needles for doing the gusset increases in the heel and like the toe. DPNs work just fine though, but yeah. I am now on the gusset. I'm on the gusset increases. You can see my little stitch marker right here. So yeah, this is my second sock. This will get done eventually. I'm in no hurry about it. I do have 2 whips that are in the car. I have my Manhattan hat, which is a gift, in which I just keep in the car for whenever my husband drives and I need something to knit on. And then I have a Musselburgh hat, which again serves the same purpose. So I should probably just bring one of them home to knit on. But one of them is ribbed, one of them is stockinette. They both serve the same purpose, but both have very different mental loads. Okay. All of the other whips that I showed in my last podcast, I have not worked on. They're not in hibernation, like they haven't done anything bad. I just haven't felt the need to work on them. So yeah, everything else has stayed the same. I do have 2 new cast-ons, which It's ironic seeing how I have so many WIPs to begin with, but that's just how things are. The first one I'll show is my Straya cardigan. This is also by Andrea Mowry. This is a very Andrea Mowry heavy year so far. That's just how the cookie crumbles. But this is my Straya cardigan. Let me see. So this is the front. This cardigan is knit from the top down. So I'm still in the yoke section. I'm doing the increases as is indicated in the pattern. This is a fingering weight half fisherman's rib cardigan on US 2s. So this cardigan takes some time. That being said, I love brioche and I love half fisherman's rib. I love that stitch pattern. It's very squishy and very meditative because it's very repetitive. And the yoke increases are very simple. They're not super advanced and by any means. Like brioche can get pretty complicated, but this pattern isn't. So yeah, I'm just on the yoke increases right now. This is the back. This is the front. I'm trying to see. It's kind of hard to show you guys right now because it's not like the biggest piece of fabric that I'm showing right now. And I am using the Coast to Coast Yarn Co.'s 2023 Christmas Advent. I believe it's coffee themed. I can't exactly remember the name. It is also in a fade, so I am doing it as the fade intended. So this top color is day 1, and then I'm on day 2 right now. And then the contrasting stripes, that is the full skein that came with the Advent. And based on the size that I am knitting, which is the size 4, I should have just enough yarn, which I love. I love playing a little bit of yarn chicken. It makes me very satisfied to use up every scrap. So yeah, this is the Straya cardigan. I'm just dropping everything. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a really great summer garment, and I'm super excited. I've been loving working on this, and even though it is fingering weight on US 2's half fisherman's rib, it does take time, and I recognize that, but it's actually going by pretty easily. Like it's very repetitive. The only thing I'm kind of wondering about for myself this is if I should do the yarn changes after a stripe. So I don't know if the camera can really tell, but the first day took 1, 2, 3, and I ran out of the day 1 yarn here, and so that last stripe is day 2, and then I did the contrast stripe, and then day 2 onward. I am now getting close to the end of my day 2 yarn, so I am debating on whether I should switch to day 3 right after the contrast stripe, or if I should just do as I did with day 1, use up all of day 2 and then go into day 3. I think I'm noticing the yarn change because I know where it is. I'm not sure if it's that obvious to anybody else. So I should probably just ask my husband. Because he definitely doesn't know where the yarn change actually happened. So he would probably be good eyes. But yeah, that is the only thing that I am wondering about. But if I change yarn right after a stripe, a contrast stripe, then I would be losing like a gram or 2 of yarn, which is not that much, but I am already cutting it kind of close with Yarn Chicken. So the question is, and you don't really know how close you are with Yarn Chicken until the very end, because a lot of designers, Andrea Mowry included, will give you a nice buffer in the yarn amounts that you would need. So I am right at that buffer in which I could be fine. Or I could run out. So yeah, that would be something that I need to think about. I don't know. I don't know. But it is beautiful. It is a beautiful pattern, and the fabric that it's giving is just so nice and squishy, but still so light because it is still fingering weight. Oh, Coast to Coast Yarn Co. is doing their coffee update. I think today, or maybe tomorrow. So if you, well, as for me, look, my future self looking back on this, it's gonna be too late to order. But, but yeah, maybe I should just order an extra skein, and in that way I can. But I don't really want to order more yarn than I actually need. I don't know. And plus, I love, I love neutrals. I love browns in garments. I don't actually like brown in accessories. So if I order an extra skein and I don't end up using it at all, then it's going to end up becoming socks or hats or mittens. And I don't really wear neutral colors like browns and creams as accessories. So I'm not quite sure if I would like to do that. Like, just look at my bright raspberry lemonade socks. So I'm not sure. That is something that I would need to contemplate on myself and not on camera. Because, yeah. But that's my Straya. I'm keeping it in this little bag. I think this is from, yeah, Fat Squirrel. She has a podcast and she's hilarious. My husband does not enjoy watching my knitting podcasts. Why would he? He's not a knitter, but he loves watching hers because she's just so funny and so down to earth. Anyway, this is her bag. I got this during her Halloween update last year. So that is my Straya, and then my last whip that I've started that I have not shown you guys is a Pinguono. So this is the beginning of a Pinguono. This is a Stephen West pattern. I'm looking, I have all my stuff down here, and I'm looking to see if I brought the pattern up with me, and I do not believe so. That would have been convenient. Anyway, so this is the back panel. Let me see if I can bring it up. The Pinguono is like a jacket. I believe he labels it as a jacket. Knit by Stephen West, or designed by Stephen West. It's a very modular pattern. So you're knitting the back panel, and then you kind of wrap around. It's really hard to explain without the pattern description in front of me. And I'm using all scraps. So I have a lot of scrap yarn, and I don't want to knit blankets. I'm not a blanket knitter, and I've knit socks and I've knit mittens or like fingerless mitts out of scraps, and I'm just not, it was not enough to use the amount of scraps I actually have. So I was digging through my library on Ravelry because I have bought patterns that I've never knit before, which I feel like is very common. And I saw that I purchased a Pinguono quite some time ago. And I was like, ooh, this would be a perfect scrap buster because it is quite a large jacket and it uses a bunch of scraps. You can knit it at almost any gauge, knit it with almost any yarn weight. It's really ingenious how he designed that pattern. So yeah, that is what I'm using to knit up all these scraps. I am using, so currently I am using fingering weight held double, and I am knitting that on a US 9. I originally was holding fingering weight triple, and I discovered that I hated that. I did not enjoy knitting 3 strands of yarn, it made my eyes hurt to like try to make sure that I picked up all 3 strands, which is ironic because I can knit without looking, but for some reason I felt like I had to look for the 3 strands, and it was just straining my eyes too much. So I went down to 2. I do not enjoy knitting 2 strands at the same time. That's the reason why you'll almost never see me knit with mohair, because I just don't enjoy knitting more than 1 strand at a time. But if I wanted to hit the gauge of the size that I want, which I'm trying to hit like DK weight worsted, like medium to large size, I want this to be quite oversized, then I needed to hold fingering weight at least double, at least. And yeah, and I'm knitting on a US 9. I did not hit gauge, but that's okay because it's quite an oversized garment anyway. And if it ends up being smaller than intended, because I already intended to be quite large anyway, actually being smaller would not be that detrimental. So yeah, what else is there? So I'm knitting the back panel. This is knit primarily in seed stitch, but I did add a cable pattern right here. It's kind of hard to see because of the variegated yarn, so I'm trying to show you on the solid. This is a cable pattern that I got from the Amadou cardigan, which is another pattern that I already have. I just added it in mostly for visual interest, but also the back panel is quite long and I do not feel like counting rows. So it is much easier for me to count a pattern repeat than to count rows. And cabling is a very easy pattern repeat to be able to watch, to like see, so, and count. So yeah, that's why I'm using it. I've seen other project pages use cables in their pingronos, and it just looks beautiful. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, that is everything. I really got some serious cast-on-itis, but that's fine. It's gonna be summer soon. Well, it's gonna be spring soon, and I know that just from past experience that spring and summer is my lull in knitting season. It's when I do not feel any motivation to cast on anything and to just finish what's on my needles and to just not knit at all. That's my finishing phase. So I'm kind of okay with the cast-on-itis right now. I did make a goal this month, for the month of April, to not cast on anything new, just because I know that I am getting to my knitting lull. So just to like mentally prepare myself. I am trying to finish any of my heavier weight garments. So the no sweatshirt is in DK weight, for example, and the pingrono, since it's scraps, I want to finish it as soon as possible, but at the same time I am limited based on the number of scraps that I have, in which I might actually run out of scraps before I finish this jacket, which would be great. That would mean I don't have any more scraps in my stash, but that would also cause me to halt on knitting this project. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess, to knit from scraps. But yeah, I have nothing else. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see myself later. Okay. I'm being really corny right now. Bye.